حاجی اینجا کجاست؟ زدن چه بد جایی هم هست.
ساعت الان 3:37 ورودی
لبنان بیش از 100,000 موشک قائم آماده پروازند.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Ikman Nostalgia here, and you might have heard, that we're basically staring down the barrel of World War III, which is something that I've tried to warn people about for a while. And I sound like a broken record. I understand that, but it's so frustrating when you scream at the top of your lungs for the longest time about things that people don't want to hear. You know, they just don't. It's not something uplifting, shall we say. It's not the most uplifting news in the world, but Israel has attacked Iran, which is something that they've wanted to do for a very long time, in case you don't know that. And of course, all the news sites are saying, well, they wanted to get rid of the nuclear material because, Iran was really close to building the bomb and blah, blah, blah. They've been saying that since the 80s. So if you're not aware of that, I'm going to point that out to you right away. They've wanted to do this for a long time. And I still stand by what I said when I said that October 7th was a false flag attack. That I really believe that they've backed Hamas, and similar to the way that the United States backed Al-Qaeda. If you don't know about that, you've been living under a rock. We trained them. We gave them weapons. And when we left, 18 years after that mess, we left everything there. I'm sure people remember that. That was only a few years ago now. So what they do is they prop up this boogeyman, okay? And then they have the excuse to do what they want to do. So I see after 9/11, nobody wanted to have anything to do with the Middle East anymore, okay? After like Desert Storm. You'll notice there's a repeated pattern that happens in America. Americans are like, no, we don't want war. Then something shitty happens and Americans are like, it's war. We need war now. Like Pearl Harbor, for example. There's many conspiracies about Pearl Harbor and how they knew it was coming and they lined up their ships on purpose after they cut off Japan's oil supply, which is basically a direct act of war. If you don't, you know what I mean? If you don't have oil, you really can't do much of anything, right? And the whole oil embargo really started a big mess, and they knew they were going to attack in Pearl Harbor. Same thing, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. It came out years later that was all BS. They just wanted to get us into the war. It didn't happen the way they said it happened. So these false flags have been used for a long time. They'll tell you, the most famous false flag they'll tell you about is how Germany burnt down their own Reichstag building. And, the whole Night of the Long Knives, etc. But yeah, 9/11, the whole thing, it justified us going over there and beating the shit out of Israel's enemies. This is something that a lot of people understand now. It's not like crazy conspiracy land like it used to be. After many people have put in the effort to expose the fact that that's exactly what happened. And that's what I believed happened on October 7th. I believe that they stood down on purpose. You're talking about Mossad here, which is like one of the most sophisticated intelligence agencies on the planet. And Israel is one of the most well-guarded nations in the world. Okay, they've got the Iron Dome. They've got all these systems that warn them about things. And it took them like 7 or 8 hours to respond. And every time you go to any, let's say just Yahoo, for example. If you go and read the forums over there, or the threads over there on their articles, the comments will always say, just release the hostages and it can be over. They'll repeatedly drop stories about how people are being killed, women and children, hospitals are being bombed, people are standing in line trying to get food and they're being killed. And like 90% of the comments are, well, just release the hostages and it can all that's just an excuse to continue to do what they want. They want to get greater Israel. And they've wanted that for a long time. Okay, what was it? From the river to the sea, Israel will be free. Isn't that what they... There's been a plan by Zionists for a long, long time to create greater Israel. And the way to do that is they had to do everything they're doing now. Iran was like the last thing that they needed to clear out of the way. So that's why they're going after Iran. There have been many people who have come out and said, over the years, yeah, I used to work for them. I did this and that, and the main goal was Iran. And once we go here, we're going there, and the whole goal has always been to get rid of Iran because it's the biggest threat against Israel. They're not a threat to the United States. They're not, but they're going to tell you that they are, because they need to drag you into World War III, kicking and screaming. So about 3 hours ago, Netanyahu made a statement, and he's trying to petition to Americans in this. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop.
It's interesting how he mentions genocide when we see that that's exactly what's been happening to Palestinians. I mean, they line up to get food and they're being killed for it. So basically, one of the things that they'll do is they'll do evil shit and then they'll blame other people for it. I believe the meme is that they hit you and then they cry out in pain, isn't that? There's a reason why people say that.
Nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9.
Okay. And how many nuclear weapons do they have? I don't know if people are aware of this, but Israel stole information on how to make that stuff from the United States a long time ago. And yeah, it wasn't a problem when they did that, though. But now these people are trying to develop some sort of system. They can't have it. They can have it, but, Iran can't have it.
In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before. Steps to weaponize this enriched uranium.
I wonder what drove them to take those steps that they never took before. Could it be the fact that you've turned Gaza into a parking lot? I don't know. It just seems that way to me. It seems to me like these guys are always making trouble. And then they point their fingers at their enemies who react to that shit. And say, oh, look what they're doing. They're reacting to our provocation. How dare they do that?
And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
And
less than a year.
Again, we heard that in the 80s. They were saying the same shit in the 80s. They've always wanted them out of their way.
This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were...
Somebody call Harrison Ford real quick. It's a clear and present danger. Now, 80 years ago, here we go. The 6th quadrillion.
The victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime.
Right. And it just happened for no reason. Just one day, Germany got pissed off. And it didn't have anything to do with the fact that they were undermining everything they were doing and that they were giving rise to Bolshevism in Russia and having all these revolutions everywhere. And that killed millions of Christians, by the way. It didn't have anything to do with the fact that they were putting lesbians on the radio.
Almost everybody in Berlin had a radio receiver at home, and Claire Waldorf was everywhere. Everybody in Berlin knew Claire Waldorf was the first official lesbian in Berlin, and she did not make a secret out of it. And she basically had tried to convince all women who were important in culture that to be a lesbian is quite a nice thing.
Or the fact that they were trafficking kids and doing disgusting and terrible shit.
But it wasn't just Berliners. It was tens and maybe hundreds of thousands of young boys and young girls who were coming to Berlin to participate in this hard currency sex traffic.
Berlin had become the center of sexual experimentation. It also became the center of scientific research into sex, led by a pioneering doctor.
Long before Kinsey or Masters and Johnson, there was one German who is credited with inventing the whole notion of sexology or sexual science. And this was a very funny character called Papa, or the Einstein of sex in Berlin. It was Magnus Hirschfeld. Hirschfeld was a queer, Jewish, social democrat, and a great liberal.
The degenerate art had nothing to do with it. The fact that they were making paintings to mock them had nothing to do with it. They called it Dada, D-A-D-A, where they would mock everything having to do with authority and with the right.
One thing that also distinguished Berlin's sexuality from other kinds was the subject of humiliation. Humiliation or degradation is very important to attaching the notions of power to sexuality. In many cases, the power of women can hold over men.
Bizarre sexual fantasies of domination were turned into works of art by one of Berlin's oddest couples, Rudolf and Speedy Schlichter.
Berlin's most modern woman is Speedy Schlichter, and she was a young woman who came to Berlin to be a model and an actress. She appeared in 2 movies as a prostitute, and she met a decadent artist, Rudolf Schlichter, and changed his life forever.
While they would indulge in a wide variety of strange sexual experiments involving violence and death, all in the name of art, Rudolf Schlichter's particular passion focused on one piece of Speedy's attire.
He was drawn to the laced boot. So Speedy's laced boots are very much a part of his sexuality. He began to do millions of erotic drawings based on her, and also based on her laced boot.
While boots might have been Rudolf Schlichter's great obsession, he was also for a time devoted to a movement known as Dada, which mocked anything to do with authority. His good friend and fellow Dadaist was George Grosz, a painter who captured perhaps more vividly than any other artist the depravity and disillusionment of life in Berlin.
George Grosz was a social critic. You'll see bloated plutocrats pigging out at the table while right next door are emaciated prostitutes. It's this kind of juxtaposition of hedonism on the one hand and utter despair and poverty on the other that interested him.
He was asked, why do you draw all these people so ugly and mean and stuff? I mean, I walked down the street coming in here. The people looked okay. And my father's supposed to have said, yes, but I know what they're like underneath, inside. And that's what I show in the face. To me, it's just a way of showing, this is what goes on behind your fine facade.
Grosz made no one look particularly attractive, but he took special pleasure in satirizing a little-known demagogue making noise in the southern city of Munich.
He was guilty of one of the first cartoons, really famous cartoons against Hitler, where he depicted Hitler. I think it was about 1922 or so, as this Wagnerian character with a bear fur on him and a spear.
They provoked Germany in every way possible. And by the way, they declared war on them in 1933. You can find the articles. Judea declares war on Germany. They didn't want their globalist international cartel banking system, basically. They wanted to reject that. They wanted to have their own national sovereignty. And because of that, well, here we are today. At least we're not speaking German, though. Even though, everything has been LGBTQ and all this nasty, disgusting garbage has happened. I'm so glad, for that. Never mind the fact that it's a complete myth that we would all be speaking German. Let's take a look at the 6 million for a moment here. You see this? It's always 6 million. This has been used before. I don't know if you're aware. We're going to get to that one in a minute. But let's take a look at this one. 6 million has been used time and time again. 1900, 1903, 1903, 1905, 1906, 1914, 1918, 1919, 1921, 1933, 1933, 35, 36, 38, 38, 39, 41. All of these are articles where they invoke the number 6 million over and over and over and over again for some reason. It's like this weird occultic number that they keep using. And they just keep using it. Isn't that a little strange? Does anybody think, have you ever seen this? Because this should be news to some of my viewers, but they just keep using that number over and over again. I find that weird. Does anybody find that strange?
Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb.
You sure did.
We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel.
Right. How many did
Each
you
of
fire?
these missiles carries a ton of explosives.
How many did they fire into Gaza? How many Arabs have they killed? Is anybody keeping score? Do you see how one-sided this shit is? He's like, oh, how dare you do these things and do this things and all those things, man. As we've caused trouble everywhere.
And threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Iran is gearing up to produce 10,000s of those ballistic missiles within 3 years. Now, just imagine.
So we got to go in and find those weapons of mass destruction. You guys remember that? Did we find any weapons of mass destruction in 18 years when we were over in the Middle East? No. Nope, but let's just forget about that. It's always the same thing. They've got bombs. It's a problem. We need to act first. We need to be the aggressor here and strike first.
Imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey.
This is
It's interesting how he mentioned New Jersey. It's almost like he's trying to petition to Americans here. You notice he didn't say like Cairo or something, right? No, he went for New Jersey.
Tolerable threat. It too must be stopped. Iran is now working on what it calls the new plan to destroy Israel.
Oh, the new one.
You see, the old plan failed.
See, the old plan failed, so they're making a new one. So therefore, we have to blow them up first. And you should do it too. It won't piss off China or Russia or anybody else in the BRICS nations. It won't cause a massive world war. It won't do that. Oh, well, maybe it will, but that's a risk we're willing to take, right?
But what if he shot you in the face?
What if he shot me in the face?
That's a risk we were willing to take.
Come on.
Iran and its proxies try to encircle Israel with a ring of fire and to attack us with the horrible attack of October 7th.
Yeah, the one that you let happen. You didn't respond to it for 7 or 8 hours, and it gave you everything you needed to go in and attack those people and push for greater Israel. That's like the greatest thing that ever happened to his administration. I hope everybody understands that. That's exactly what they wanted. As a matter of fact, what's all this nonsense where you see Benjamin Netanyahu with this older guy? I don't remember his name. What is this like? This plan that they seem to have? What was that all about? I wonder what they were talking about there. I don't know.
But the people of Israel, the soldiers of Israel, rose like lions to defend our country. We crushed Hamas, we devastated Hezbollah, we hit Iranian proxies in Syria and Yemen. And when Iran directly attacked us twice last year, we struck back inside Iran itself. Yet in defending ourselves, we also defend others. We defend our Arab neighbors. They too have suffered from Iran's campaign of chaos and carnage.
Okay, right. But yet everything was fine all the way up until 1948 when they moved into the area and started kicking people out of their homes. And refusing to live in peace with people. Then you had the USS Liberty where they tried to get us to blame Egypt and they attacked us.
Our actions against Iran's proxy Hezbollah led to the establishment of a new government in Lebanon and the collapse of Assad's murderous regime in Syria. The peoples of those two countries now have a chance for a different future, a better future. So too do the brave people of Iran, and I have a message for them. Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship that has oppressed you for 46 years.
Okay.
I believe that the day of your liberation is near. And when that happens, the great friendship between our two ancient peoples will flourish once again.
See how he's like, well, once we bomb the shit out of you, bomb you into this like the Stone Age. We're gonna be cool, man. We can all just have a beer and we can forget about it because we liberated you through, you know, bombing the shit out of you repeatedly.
I want to assure the civilized world, we will not let the world's most dangerous regime get the world's most dangerous weapons. And Iran plans to give those weapons, nuclear weapons, to its terrorist proxies. That would make the nightmare of nuclear terrorism all too real. The increasing range of Iran's ballistic missiles would bring that nuclear nightmare to the cities of Europe and eventually to America.
You see? You see what he's doing? Do you see this shit? Our problem is your problem. It's always your problem, too. So you have to deal with our enemies for us. He's constantly done this. Israel has always done this. Oh, well, if we don't do this, then they're going to get the weapon. And if they get the bomb, we're all going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. Your little kitty cats are going to be in trouble. You love your kitty cats, don't you? Think of your cousins over in Europe. They'd be in trouble, too. But yet none of this trouble would have ever happened if they didn't, in 1948, settle into the land in a hostile way. And they weren't constantly pushing this Zionist agenda for greater Israel. It's always everybody else's fault, and everybody else has to petition to their nonsense. They're about to drag the world kicking and screaming into World War III. Because they don't know how to get along with their neighbors for 5 minutes.
Remember, Iran calls Israel the small Satan. It calls America the great Satan.
I wonder why that is. Could you imagine if you were just constantly being attacked by these people, why they might think that? He blamed 9/11 on them, and most of us have understood for years that it had nothing to do with them. They try to tell you these people just, they got angry. They don't like America and America's freedom. So they had to attack our trade towers. Never mind that every instance of that points back to things like dancing Israelis and all of that nonsense.
And this is why for decades, it's led millions in the chants of death to Israel and death to America.
Right, because we keep backing you up and all of the horrible shit you keep doing.
Today, Israel is responding to those genocidal calls with action,
with genocide,
and with a call of our own. Right. Long live Israel.
With his own genocidal program.
And long live America. Our action will help make the world a much safer place. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership in confronting Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Please don't do that. Please don't do that. And I love how he's like, oh, God bless America and all this, long live America. But let's just forget about the fact that a lot of the things that have been subverting America has come from them. Feminism comes from the Frankfurt School. It was a Jewish thing. Many of the people who pushed feminism, which has absolutely decimated traditional Christian white nations. Just read this. Take a look at the names in here. Take a look at it, okay? Because it's spot on. It's absolutely spot on. Fat acceptance, same thing. Lou Louderback wrote an article in the Saturday Evening Post. More people should be fat. Who's Lou Louderback? Well, the forgotten history of the Jewish man who started body positivity. Body positivity. LGBTQ. All of this stuff. Let's see, where is it? Okay? All you have to do is look at the names of the people who have been very, very busy creating organizations and all these movements to undermine our society. And then he's going to stand there and look you in the eye and tell you that, oh, God bless America, we love America. Yet, everywhere I look, I see nothing but their subversive bullshit that has weakened our country, has destroyed our faith, and has brought us into like the worst time in human history. Just pick a bad thing that happened, and you can pretty much guarantee like you're going to be looking at a face like this. That's why we have the meme every single time. Because over and over again, there they are.
He has made clear time and again that Iran cannot have a nuclear enrichment program. Today, it is clear that Iran is just buying for time. It refuses to agree to this basic requirement of peaceful nations.
Okay. Once again, they can have everything they want. They can steal technology from anybody they want, and they can make the bomb. But Iran can't do that.
That is why we have no choice but to act, and act now. The hardest decision any leader has to make is to thwart a danger before it is fully materialized. Nearly a century ago, facing the Nazis, a generation of leaders failed to act in time.
You see? You see that? Everybody failed to act in time. Never mind the fact that, you had grandparents that went over there and fought, and many Americans died. Many people died. It wasn't good enough because you just didn't do it quick enough. You failed to act in time. What is this nonstop guilt trip over that shit? You see how they use this emotional blackmail repeatedly to appeal to you, and they love to do it to your Christian sensibilities too. Oh, don't you know that Jesus wants you to accept all the migrant invaders into your country and to live off your tax dollars, or you're not loving your neighbor? Don't you know that? Didn't you know that that's how it's supposed to be? And meanwhile, they ignore all of that themselves, and they just continue to fight with everybody.
They were paralyzed by the horrors of World War I. They were determined to avoid war at all costs, and they got the worst war ever. They adopted a policy of appeasement. They closed their eyes and ears to all the warning signs.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just going to go watch Europa: The Last Battle. It's like 12 hours long. That's probably a 4-letter word to even say that. The Elgo is probably looking for people who even mention that, okay? Go watch it. It's like a 12-hour long documentary. And just look into what they tell you. Cross-reference everything, okay? Because it's going to talk about how all of this stuff directly ties to them and all of their satanic garbage.
That failure to act resulted in World War II, the deadliest war in history. It claimed the lives of 60 million, including 6 million Jews, a third of my people.
Right, the 6 quadrillion. Never mind the fact that they had a maternity ward and a gym and a nice swimming pool and all this stuff, and people were having kids. Right.
After that war, the Jewish people and the Jewish state vowed never again. Well, never again is now. Today, Israel has shown that...
Anybody have fatigue of the never again shit?
We have learned the lessons of history. When enemies vow to destroy you, believe them. When enemies build weapons of mass death, stop them.
So then why didn't we stop you when you did that? I think it was like the 80s when they did 80s or 90s when they did that. I'm not exactly sure exactly when they did that. But they did. They stole American technology to make that happen.
The Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first.
Okay.
This is exactly what Israel has done today. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves. Over 3,000 years ago, Moses gave the people of Israel a message that has steeled their resolve.
All right, hold on. Now, I'm not claiming to be a genius here or anything, but does this look like self-defense to anybody else? Does this look like a country that's just defending itself? Does any part of any of the land that Israel owns look anything like this? Because I don't think that it does. See, this is a drone shot. Let me get a little bit closer for you guys to see this. This is a drone shot that's pretty high up. The area of devastation here is absolutely massive. And every day, I have to hear people say, just release the hostages, bro. And then we can stop doing this to a complete massive population of people that have nothing to do with Hamas, the civilians caught in between. All you got to do is just release the hostages. And this isn't a problem. This is fine. This is totally fine. This is, if my neighbor did this to me, I'd be real happy with them. I wouldn't call them Satan or anything. It'd be totally normal. The whole plan is to scrape all of this off and create Greater Israel. That's why they destroyed it. That's why they did what they did to it. And this isn't the first time they've done something like this. I don't know if you guys are aware of the Dresden bombings, but they were absolutely horrible. The bombing of Dresden occurred from February 13th to 15th, 1945, when Allied forces dropped nearly 4,000 tons of bombs on the city. Petrol, by the way, resulting in a devastating firestorm. And when they say firestorm, they mean it, because the winds that were created from the heat, it was insane. Okay, there were reports of tornadoes made out of fire. People were liquefied, men, women, and children, in their basements, alive. They tell you 25,000 people. No, it was more than that. This has been debated for a long time. People and destroyed much of the city center. This attack has been highly controversial, with debates over its military necessity and moral implications continuing to this day. It wasn't a necessity. It was a civilian area, and the war was largely won. Okay, you know, they didn't put the finishing touches on it, right? But everybody knew it was over. And they tried to justify it by saying there are things there that were of import that needed to be destroyed. And they bombed the crap out of it. When I see images of Gaza, this is what I think of. Because they did this to Germany, using us to do it for them. And then they sit there and tell you that we didn't do enough. We just didn't do enough. We didn't do it fast enough. Because the only thing that matters in the entire world is what happens to Jews. Doesn't matter what happens to anybody else. It's just all about them and the 6 grajillion. Watch this video from Zoomer Historian, the firebombing of Dresden, a crime against humanity. Watch it. And if it doesn't wake you up and piss you off, then I don't even think you have a soul. This is insanity. This is not self-defense. Okay? It's not. And I'm somehow supposed to be drug into this with them? My tax dollars are supposed to pay for this? No. This shit needs to stop. Here we go. The biblical Israelites and the state of Israel, which the Rothschilds created in 1947, are not the same.
Be strong and courageous, he said. Today, our strong and courageous soldiers and people stand together to defend ourselves against those who seek our destruction.
Sure.
And by defending ourselves, we defend many others, and we roll back a murderous tyranny.
Right.
Generations from now, history will record that our generation stood its ground
and started World War III and struck first and cried out in pain,
acted in time, and secured our common future.
Sure.
May God bless Israel. May God bless the forces of civilization everywhere.
Right. Sure thing. You sure have blessed us with feminism and fat acceptance and the gay agenda. What a blessing it's been. I don't know about you guys, but I feel blessed about this and this and this and all these people. They sure have enriched and blessed my life. I feel so blessed about this. The 6 grajillion, and repeatedly used over and over and over again. Like some weird Masonic code. He's full of shit. Okay. He's full of shit. He's dragging the world into World War III. But basically that's what happens. And he thinks he's bringing about his Messiah. He's bringing the Antichrist into the world. Who's going to turn on them? And they're going to be very surprised. And those that remain are going to understand that the Christians were right the entire time, and they're going to repent. People, I really wish would smarten up, because the way they wage war, if you look at some of the ways that they, some oath they have, through deception you shall wage war, is one of their mottos, okay? So they're always going to be deceiving to get their way. And that's absolutely what this is. Now, why is it such a big deal that they attacked Iran? If you don't know, you've got the BRICS nations, which is, I believe, Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, etc. So Iran is tied to Russia and China. And if somebody attacks them, they're obligated to respond to that, or have to get involved in that in some way or another. I don't know if you guys have ever played the Total War games. just to give an example for my gamer audience here. If you ever played like Warhammer, Total War, and somebody attacks your ally, what does your ally immediately do when they're attacked? They turn to you and they expect you to do something about it because you signed a treaty, right? I mean, yeah, you know, you got a good economy going because you hooked up with them, but oh no, now they're trying to drag you into this war that you wanted nothing to do with. And if you tell them no, well then good luck having diplomacy with other nations, because everybody's going to think you're just, you know, you don't keep your word, they're not going to want anything to do with you, right? So that's how this works. So, and it's interesting because you see in all the headlines, oh, America didn't want nothing to do with this. They're trying to distance themselves from it. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see. According to the scriptures in Revelation, it says that Israel stands by itself and God removes all of her lovers from her and she's left alone. And it's not the first time that's happened. That happened when they trusted in Egypt back in the day, thousands of years ago. They trusted in the strength of their walls. If you go through the scriptures and you read it, you'll see over and over again, they trust in other people and they trust in their strength and not in God, and it pisses off God, and he pulls those things away from them. They're going to be in a heap of trouble. They're basically getting themselves surrounded by enemies. Okay? And once again, I'm going to point people to Morals and Dogma. Read about the planned 3 world wars. You can just Google it, look it up. There was a plan for 3 world wars, okay? And that involved putting the Muslim world against Israel and Christians, basically. And the plan is to tire everybody out on the 3 Abrahamic religions to where they don't want anything to do with it anymore. People are going to look back and be like, these 3 religions have caused so much problems. And people have been saying that already for a long time. It's like the atheist's favorite talking point is that all religion does is bring war and all this problem and all these problems. They're doing that on purpose. They're going to tire you out on that, and they're going to usher in a new world religion. This is where a lot of people are just like, I don't want to hear that. Because now you're getting spiritual, you're getting kind of deep. Like we need to just keep this on like the geopolitical. No, this is a spiritual war. People need to understand that. And it's been raging for a long time, rather. Okay? So, you're absolutely going to be seeing the Third World War. How long before that happens? I don't know. I'm surprised that it didn't happen back in like 2020, 21. I thought for sure, years ago, oh, here we go. But it's just weird. Like, as you circle the drain, it kind of speeds up. You ever seen how that happens when you let water out of a drain? At first, it kind of goes slow, and then it goes fast. That's kind of how things have been going in the world. Between all this garbage going on, with the whole migrant problems everywhere, and every traditional white Christian European country that's being displaced and replaced, okay? You've seen this happening. You see it happening in the United States with LA, the garbage between Mexico. I've told people that their president is a Jewish woman. It isn't a good look when you understand the whole satanic globalist agenda. And I want people to understand that I don't hate them, okay? I don't. It's actually forbidden for me to do that in the Bible. Romans 11, read the entire chapter. Because there's a lot of people who claim Christ and they seem to ignore Romans 11. Because there's a point where the whole world turns on them, okay? But then everybody who attacked them is also dealt with. So everybody who comes against Israel and takes up arms against Israel is also dealt with. And you can see this time and time again, man. You can go back and look at Babylon. Babylon was used to punish Israel, and then Babylon was punished. Rome and Egypt both were used to punish Israel. Where are they today? They're not the empires they used to be. Are the people still alive? Yes. But they were scattered and their nations were destroyed. This is how it's done. And it's frustrated me, and I've prayed to God, like, why is it like, I don't understand why it's like this, because it seems like they create trouble, and then when they get what they got coming, then everybody who goes after them, you punish them too. Why? I don't understand. But his ways are above my ways. His understanding is vastly superior to my own, so I just rely on what he said in his book, okay? I look at the words in his book, and I read them, and I try to understand them the best that I can, but I lean on him, because he knows the beginning from the end and how this is all going to play out. But rest assured, everybody who turns on them, he's going to turn on them as well. You see it over and over again, man. Anybody who's ever been used to punish them is also punished. And usually it's a pagan nation that does it. And then he turns and punishes them in kind. So this is why I try to tell people, don't pick up arms against this kind of stuff. Like if we have to defend our nation, amen. I mean, I think that's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. When, I'm not entirely certain. But yeah, just read the scriptures. It's very clear on how all this stuff plays out. And I always see these videos about people trying to figure out the world and the universe. There's so many videos on YouTube about, the Big Bang and all these planets. And, we got the Big Bang wrong. And now it looks like that's not right. And all these different things, blah, blah, blah. People trying to find truth and rejecting the Word of God, which tells you the beginning from the end, basically, exactly how all of this is going to play out. It's a freaky thing. But the scripture tells us, those of us who have faith in Christ, not to be afraid, okay? Because, yeah, things are going to get nasty here, but we've been promised eternal life with God. For those who believe in Him and put their faith in Him, all the things that are happening in the world are going to work to our benefit in the end. But we are absolutely heading into the worst time in human history. There's no other way to put this. And it says explicitly in the Bible that people are going to be looking to have their ears itched. Please, just speak smooth things to me. I want to hear good things. I'm not giving you that. I'm not going to tell you, it's all going to be okay and we're going to overcome and our nation's going to be, blessed by God again and we're going to have just 200, 300 years of this American empire and it's going to continue. No. It's going to continue to decline. You're going to see them put in their digital monetary nonsense so they can control every purchase that you make and they can watch everything that you do. You see this Palantir technology that they're trying to bring out. I mentioned before how Laura Loomer, who is obviously evil, is talking about how, we need to use this against these migrants, man. How are we going to deal with them? You're going to have to spy on these people. Just like the so-called Patriot Act, the name escaped me in the last video. It's called the Patriot Act. Who would be against the Patriot Act? You're not a patriot if you're against the Patriot Act and you don't want the government to spy on you. They still spy on you after 9/11. The Patriot Act didn't go away. They still use it. So this Palantir crap, they're going to use it to spy on anybody who is against what they are doing. So anybody who's afraid of being on a list, well, I got news for you. If you've ever spoken against this kind of stuff, you're probably already on it. But it doesn't matter because when the world descends into chaos, nobody's really going to be able to escape that anyway. The only way to escape that is through the Spirit. Your flesh, you're going to have to go through some things. And I know there's a lot of Christians that hate to hear that. They think, no, there's going to be a rapture before everything happens. Yeah, all right, maybe. Maybe. That'd be great if I could just get pulled off the front lines before, the bombs start to fall and all that. But I don't know. Something tells me we're going to have to endure until all of this is said and done. Okay? People really need to be prepared for that. And I don't know how you can really be truly prepared for it because I knew that this attack on Iran was going to happen eventually. And still, when I looked at the news today, it just took the wind right out of me. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I've known this was coming forever, and still it shocks me. It's like when somebody you love, or like a pet or something, you know that they're sick and they're not going to be long for this world. You're still not prepared for when they die. That's kind of the way that I would put it. That's the way I felt when I saw them attacking Iran. And if anybody thinks that this is being blown out of proportion and just calm down, no, man. You're going to see very quickly all these things just add up. You have to take a look at the larger picture, right? You have to zoom out the graph. Like that meme. Look at this graph.
Look at this graph.
You got to zoom back the graph and look at everything. You've got all these fires and floods and all this crazy civil unrest and all this insanity happening all over the world all at once. And the Bible says that you're going to see these things starting to happen, but don't be afraid because the end is not yet. But it is coming. And the best thing that I could do to serve God and my fellow man is to tell them to put their faith in Jesus Christ. We've got a book, guys, and everybody ignores it. It was written thousands of years ago, and it told you in Jeremiah 24:9 that God was going to scatter some people and that they would cause problems everywhere they went. They would be a taunt and a curse everywhere they went. I always see people complaining about, how they were all thrown out of 109 countries over and over again. Well, then they completely disregarded the Bible said that was going to happen in Jeremiah 24:9. Everything that's unfolding today, if you read the prophecies in the scripture, it's absolutely true. It's like that video, the prophecy is true.
The prophecy is true.
I love that video. It's hilarious. Why? Because it's kind of being facetious. It's taking something serious and kind of making light of it, which helps you to deal with it a little bit. But yeah, man, get your affairs in order. Come to Christ. John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Admit you're a sinner and believe in Jesus Christ and confess to men that you believe in Jesus Christ and you will be saved. This is why I keep saying it's time to get on the ark, okay? Because the second time the world ends, it ends in fire. And yeah, I wouldn't want to survive that anyway. I think I'd want to go out before the day of the Lord, which is terrible. It talks about how all the people hide themselves in the rocks and in the dens, which, back in the day, they didn't have any idea what bunkers would look like, but I'm assuming that's what they're going to be doing. They're trying to hide themselves from the face of the Lord who comes down and brings judgment on people. It says that they're going to be throwing their gold into the streets because it stands as like an accusation against them that they even have it in such a time. That's why when I see all this Bitcoin crap and people are like, you just join Bitcoin, put all your faith and your money into Bitcoin. I see a lot of Christians doing that crap. Do you not think that the devil's going to be ahead of you there? Do you not see how that the Bitcoin and all of this stuff is going to be moved into the mark of the beast? You're not going to have any of that. They are going to accumulate all the wealth onto themselves. And then when he comes back, God's going to see that they have it. And they're going to do everything they can to get rid of it because they're going to be terrified of it. And the repercussions of what they have done in this world, they are going to pay for it. So get right with God. If you guys like this video, let me know about it. Hit the comment or hit the like button, subscribe, click the notification bell. I'll see you in the comments. God bless, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.